everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to our latest edition of Political Posse.
It's been a while, Laurie, I feel.
It's been a while. It's been 2 weeks.
It's
pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So what we missed, what happened in between the podcast was Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
And Denise is a curmudgeon.
I'm not a curmudgeon.
You are.
No. I feel like we're those two Muppet guys at the balcony. But seriously, Valentine's Day, I think, is okay. But don't force me.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be commercialized either. You could just use it as a day to tell people how much you care about them.
I do that every day.
Well, maybe make this day special with a handmade card.
Handmade card?
Yes.
No, thank you.
I did that.
Of course you did. Well, you have a 9-year-old, so you have like this stuff on hand too. I would have to go to the store, buy Crayola crayons, construction paper. Like, it's a process.
For the one you love, is it really a process, Denise?
God. I did get Darlene some Whitman's chocolate.
Ooh.
Very typical, very kind of...
That's very New England,
stereotypical?
There's been a lot going on.
Lots going on politically.
Oh, God.
The country.
It's been a disaster.
Disaster?
A disaster.
Opportunities for advancement.
I like your optimism, Denise.
Well, I'm trying not to be so negative, Laurie.
Shut up. I told Denise she sounded angry once, and you held it over me for weeks.
Well, it really kind of hurt me because then I started doing some internal reflection and am I too angry?
I broke the glass for you.
Is that what you did?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Your anger glass.
But so I'm like, am I too angry? I think this point in politics and the way that I feel our country is going, I think really kind of hits me hard sometimes. And the feeling, I don't know if anybody else feels it, but almost like a sense of how are we going to get out of this?
Yeah.
When is this going to be the country we recognize again? Because right now I don't really recognize who we are and what kind of policies that everyone's just blindly following.
Right.
So I'm not angry anymore. I'm trying to take a better approach.
Well, and I will say that my daughter and I tried to shower Denise with gifts this morning.
It was very awkward.
Come to our house more.
You don't have to buy my love. That's what Valentine's Day is for.
That's what raspberry croissants and chocolate croissants
Those things are
for.
the best at Cadoba. No.
Cabrata. It's not Cadoba.
I get all confused. Denise. And I call Hoda Cabota. What's her?
What are you talking about?
Hoda
Codby?
Yeah. I call her Hoda Cabota. And I don't know why.
That's not right.
I know it's not right. And I apologize, Hoda, if you ever listen to our podcast.
Hoda listens to our podcast.
That would be amazing if Hoda listened to our podcast. Hoda, if you listen to our podcast, can you write a review for us?
Oh, actually, I was going to say get us on her show.
Oh, that too.
Drink big, Denise.
I'll settle for a nice little line from Hoda Cabota.
Hoda Cabota. Maybe if you get her some Qdoba.
I can't right
Cabrata.
Now. Anyway.
Okay, so we have a lot to talk about. And what that led us to, Denise and I have been having a few discussions about that there is so much going on that we are moving this podcast to weekly.
Dun, dun, dun.
And this also gives me the chance to kidnap Denise more.
So if I go missing, just check in Laurie's house.
Don't call anybody. She's fine.
Seriously, she's fine. Put that tracking on my phone. Anyway, no, I mean, because we were thinking by the time that some of the podcast airs, some of the information is a little stale, and with things ever changing so very quickly, we figured let's do it weekly, and we kind of like it.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah.
So what do we have going on in this podcast, Law?
So in addition to all of the news that we're going to be covering, we have a couple of big topics in the headline section that we're going to talk about, including the non-national emergency.
Yep.
We're going to be talking with this incredible lady named Amy Ebbeson.
Yes, she's amazing. We took the podcast on the road.
Oh, yeah.
And we went to Rutland, Massachusetts.
First time there.
First time. It won't be our last either.
No. And you know why?
Tell me why, Laurie.
Because the donuts are amazing out there.
Can we just talk about the donuts for a minute? I know people may not want to hear this, but we need to say it.
Because we talked about it in the interview with Amy, too.
Boston Dunkin' Donuts do not fill their donuts appropriately.
They do not.
We've gone out to Western Mass a couple of times now, and each time We were in Fitchburg, and then we were in Rutland, and Amy got us these Dunkin' Donuts that were filled to the brim with filling.
Yep. And they had full-size butternut donuts, which don't happen anywhere. And they looked like they came out of a magazine.
Yeah.
Boston.
Yeah, just like the picture.
Would you put your donut from Dunkin' Donuts on a magazine?
No, you shouldn't.
No.
You shouldn't.
I mean, these were perfect.
And they have powdered donuts. Boston doesn't have powdered donuts anymore.
Denise is 80.
Yeah.
She needs her small black coffee.
Powdered small black coffee. I have been drinking my coffee
powdered
black.
Donut.
But the powdered donut, a delicious powdered donut, they don't have that anymore. I even asked. Well, the one on Marcy Boulevard doesn't. I don't want to speak for other ones, but
I think
it doesn't seem like
the lady at the Dunkin' Donuts counter when you ordered that was like, "What the fuck?
Like, where are you coming in from?"
We're like, "Are you from like
it was stupid.
Minnesota?" You're like, "No, we're from Boston."
Boston.
But I will say, Boston. There is a Dunkin' Donuts on Market Street in Brighton, and they sell Boston cream munchkins.
Who does that? How is that even a munchkin? Isn't it supposed to be the holes from the other thing?
It's. Do you really think they're punched holes from the
No,
holes?
I used to when I was just a wee little lady.
But now you've grown up. That and Santa.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, so we're going to talk with Amy, and she is a lot of wonderful things. She is one of the things that she is the co-chair of the Worcester County Commission on the Status of Women. So we had a little jam sesh with her talking about childcare and some of the initiatives that her and the organization are focusing on. So it's a great chat. So, and then we have Political Pill. Denise, what's up with Political
Pill? What does Google and conversion therapy have in common? You shall see.
Stay tuned. I never thought you'd hear that, huh?
No. Little disturbing, but I'll tell you more about it at the end.
All right. So let's jump right in, Denise.
I like it.
So we have a national emergency on our hands.
Yes, we do. Yes,
we do. Bullshit.
It's bullshit, but not uncommon, right?
No.
I mean, these things have happened before.
Yeah, but for real reasons.
Real reasons. Not fabricated.
So Trump basically gets a deal worse than the deal he was given before the first shutdown.
Yeah.
And says, I'm going to take this deal, but I'm going to call for a national emergency, which, Denise, he says he doesn't have to do.
Right.
But he wants the wall done now, so he's going to do it. And then jumps on a plane.
And goes golfing.
Because
that's what I do when there's a national emergency in my family, or like a family emergency. Hey, everybody.
Well, Denise, everyone needs self-care.
I guess. There were like pictures of him at the omelet station in Mar-a-Lago, and I can't anymore. Yeah. But let's go back to him saying, I don't have to do that. That could mean a number of things, right?
Right.
What do you think his intentions were? Do you think it's because, hey, Congress, you're not doing what I'm telling you to do and you're not giving me the money? Or is it, I really don't have to do this, but it's a campaign promise and I need to stick to my guns? Out of all the campaign promises, this is the one that everyone chants at my rallies
every campaign promise he's made has fallen flat. So I really think this is the last-ditch effort before the election to fulfill that stupid promise that he gave to voters. In that same presser in the Rose Garden, he also said, I got a great deal. Lots of money. So much money, I don't even know what to do with it. It's like...
It's a little sad that this administration feels that they have to go to extreme measures to get any of their policies put through.
Right.
It
just probably means that they're not good policy.
Well, they're not good policy. It means that the Congress can't really get behind some of this stuff, even though, they'll come out and say, yes, we support everything that this president wants to do. But in reality, when the votes come up, they fall short. Right. So that's why he goes to the executive orders. That's why he goes to a national emergency, because he's not winning anything.
No.
But this is going to be the winningest. We're going to win. You're going to get sick of winning because we're going to win so much. I know I'm sick of winning.
I'm sick of winning too.
Bored with winning. God, it's been done.
Winning is for losers.
Passe.
So one of the things, part of the national emergency, is where this money is actually going to come from.
Where's it coming from, Laurie?
List, Denise.
I like this list too.
$3.6 billion that was earmarked for military construction.
Can we just talk about that for a quick second?
Please,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but our military is supposedly the most important thing that he wanted to reinvest in.
He wanted a fucking parade.
And he wanted the damn parade. But now it's like, we don't need the military because we're going to have this wall down on the border. Well, I'm sorry, but the military really hasn't been down there at the border, except for the National Guard troops that you put down there just recently, which many states have pulled their own people out and be like, no, we need you elsewhere.
Yeah.
But, okay, I can't.
It's true, Denise.
The military.
I know.
Very important.
But it gets better.
Strongest military in the world.
It gets better.
I'm sitting down.
$2.5 billion from a Pentagon drug prevention program.
Pentagon is going to flip their shit. They're going to flip their shit.
Poetic. The wall is supposed to be this thing that's supposed to stop drugs from coming into our borders, which most of the drugs are coming in through legal ports of entry.
Which is proven, which is a fact.
Yes. And the true national emergency, if it was, which Lindsey Graham said the big emergency was the opioid epidemic. That's why the wall is being built now. The national emergency should be on the opioid crisis.
So review, Laurie, right?
There's more though too.
I know.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Review that $2.5 billion that you just talked about.
Yeah.
Say it slowly for the people in the back. $2.5 billion from a Pentagon drug prevention program. Mm-hmm. What's the next one?
$600 million from Treasury Department drug forfeiture fund, and it will give us 234 miles of border barrier, which is an eighth.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact fraction, but it's a fraction of what he was promising his people.
Yeah. A fraction. And some of these farmers and ranchers are going to be losing their land because the United States will just seize it for eminent domain to build this wall that is possibly ineffective.
Right. That will not work.
Can we just talk about the guise of how this is going to combat the opioid crisis? I did some digging, and Senator Elizabeth Warren, presidential candidate now, along with Elijah Cummings, came up with this act that they introduced last year, and they're going to reintroduce it this year. And it's basically, it's amazing. It's going to be $100 billion. I know, gasp, this is so much money, whatever.
Yeah. But
it's over 10 years. Mm-hmm. It's over 10 years. And what it will do, it will be going to cities, towns, territories, tribal communities as well, to combat the opioid crisis with the people on the front lines, going to prevention drugs, alternative medicines, that sort of thing. I mean, it's a huge, bold investment in our country.
Right.
But we're going to do a border wall instead because that will take care of it. No, this bill will take care of it. It's called the CARE Act, by the way. We'll put it on our website. Yeah. There's a great article on Vox about it. It was introduced last year, like I said, in 2018, but it's going to be revisited again this year.
But can we talk about how this is the kind of legislation that we should be talking about?
Yeah.
It's long-term, it's thoughtful, it's forward-thinking, and it's the kind of thing that will actually start making a difference. Because you were saying, didn't you say that the opioid epidemic is costing us 78...
Oh, yeah.
How much was it?
It was... Hold on. Stand by, please, Laurie. It was a lot of money.
It was like 78 million or billion?
It was billions.
78 billion.
It was billions of dollars.
And that now you take a piece of legislation, 100 billion over 10 years. And the return on investment is there.
It isn't much compared. Warren's and Cummings' bill isn't much compared to the $78.5 billion in economic burden in 2013. Wow. And that one study connected to prescription opioid addiction and overdoses, or $500 billion in economic losses in 2015. Like, this basically kind of pays for itself compared to what we're spending for all of these things. Right. And that in the 2015, that's what Trump's White House Council of Economic Advisors linked to the opioid crisis. Wow. So they're linking billions and billions of dollars directly to this crisis.
Right. So does $100 billion sound that bad anymore?
No. It's all about perspective, right?
Right.
And if we're gonna do this wall for $25 billion after all is said and done, which does not include maintenance, I mean, come on.
And the wall won't be up tomorrow.
And the wall is not really going to do anything to combat this opioid crisis. How does a wall just standing there do anything? It's not actively helping communities, not helping the people that need the help.
Right. Well, there's a couple of states, as Trump would say, 16 cities, but it's actually 16 states.
16 cities.
Who filed a lawsuit against this national emergency measure. So we will see what happens. And the ACLU is also starting to get involved in this as well. When Trump called this bullshit, Nancy Pelosi was like, you better be careful because you're setting a precedence that could be followed by future presidents. And we all know that she meant a Democratic president.
Yep.
And she referenced things like school shootings, gun sense laws here in America. And we just had the year anniversary of the Parkland shooting. And there was another shooting in Aurora, Illinois. And I was reading this article that said there has been 350 mass shootings since Parkland. So
350?
Almost one a day.
Laurie, I knew it was high, but when you hear things like 350,
yeah,
it's sobering.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about... So it makes me think, if a Democrat became president,
yep,
and the national emergency guide was not kind of fine-tuned because of this disaster, do you think that the Democrats should do something like this, like use this national emergency to address different measures like gun control or like the opioid crisis? And where does an emergency and crisis start separating themselves?
I mean, at the very beginning of them doing this national emergency statute or whatever the hell you call it, it wasn't very clear of what it kind of... There's no guidelines. There's no checklist to say, okay.
There's been no crazy person challenging these rules.
Right. It's not like, hey, I meet this criteria, check off everything and be like, oh yeah, that constitutes a national emergency. But to your question about whether or not a Democrat president gets into office, and should they, and could they should and they could. I mean, unless they're funded by the NRA, so I
doubt it.
I doubt it too.
It's a Democrat.
Crazier things have happened. We have a lot of work to do.
We have a lot of work to do.
But that national emergency stuff really should be fine-tuned.
We could talk about this forever.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it enough.
We've talked about it enough, though, I think.
Let's move on to Paul Manafort. Man.
I mean, this story just keeps...
It's crazy
evolving and evolving. So there's a lot of things that happened with Paul Manafort on Friday, and we had a lovely interview on 60 Minutes, one of my favorite shows.
That in what?
Next to CBS Sunday Morning.
Sunday Morning, that's what it is.
I love that show so much.
You talk about me being 90. You're 90.
I'm not 90. McKay was on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
Doing a little tell-all. He has a book coming out, so he talked a little bit about...
Of course he has a book.
Shocker. How many Trump books have come out since he became president? I mean, seriously.
Too many.
It's like you join the administration to write a book and make a shit ton of money.
God. I think most of it's truth, but I think there's some stretching of it involved. Agreed. I mean, some of it is self-serving, right?
Well, so I think his story is very compelling.
It's very compelling.
He had a lot of interesting facts. The one thing that was like, wait a minute, was when he was asked about the 25th Amendment and when Rod Rosenstein was talking about it with him, he was like, I don't remember. That seemed a little weird to me.
Yeah.
And the fact that all of those notes and memorandums that he made for himself after all those meetings.
He had his own show notes. He had his own show notes. McCabe show notes. I like to see those.
I love show notes.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
They're all with Mueller now.
Yeah.
So
let's see.
That was my favorite part. That was like the last line of the interview. He's like, and now they're with Mueller. And everyone's like, oh my God.
It's like a soap opera.
So just to recap, because this is also something. So I will say this. Rachel Maddow is amazing.
She is on point.
She is amazing. She is the queen of long-form journalism on TV. I'm
telling you. Except for that one hiccup when she thought she had the tax returns.
Oh, Jesus.
But other than that, she had a really good episode on this past Friday that I think everybody should watch or listen to because they have a
she has a podcast.
Yeah, she has a podcast too that really kind of shows you things. It gives you so much information and you're like, we need to whiteboard this because there's just so much going on.
Yeah, it's true. And what she does is she weaves the story for you.
She does.
She connects the pieces. So she talked a lot about Paul Manafort on Friday and how he's been asked to serve 20 to 24 years in prison.
And that's
which
just
is
for
basically his natural life.
Because he's what, 60 something,
Yeah.
69.
Right. So there was a quote in an article in Vanity Fair about this saying Manafort acted for more than a decade as if he were above the law and deprived the federal government and various financial institutions of millions of dollars. Prosecutors wrote in a court filing in Manafort's 8 convictions on counts of financial fraud. This guy's no joke.
No joke.
The sentence here should reflect the seriousness of these crimes and serve to both deter Manafort and others from engaging in such conduct. Manafort chose to do this for no other reason than greed, evidencing his belief that the law does not apply to him.
And this is only for the Virginia case.
Yeah.
He has one in D.C. that's pending.
Yeah.
And I don't even know.
Yeah.
And they're saying that they're thinking he's going to get the max. Like, this is a starting point, but they were thinking that, they're not going to go much less than that.
You think he is definitely setting himself up for a pardon?
Well, so Laurie, let's
hear this, Denise.
Well, I can't anymore. But while he was cooperating, right, with investigators or whatever, he was asked a question, right, about the link with, what's this guy's name again? The Russian...
Oh, Konstantin Kalimnik.
That's him. God, Constantine. Huh. Which makes me sad because my grandfather's name was Constantine. And it just makes me sad.
I'm sure he's not a jerk.
No, well, he's dead. So,
Wow.
Anyway, so...
Bring it down, Denise.
In September, Manafort pleaded guilty to 2 felony conspiracy charges as part of his cooperation agreement, which Mueller claimed was voided, when Manafort allegedly lied, prosecutors about his interactions with Konstantin Kalimnik, a Russian business associate of Manafort, and his contact to the Trump administration. So because of that, right, that kind of sets himself up. He answered all these other questions, but when asked specifically about this man and the dealings with the administration or within the campaign, he misled them. Manafort's in a pickle.
He is in a pickle.
But I think this sets him up for a pardon, right?
Yeah, because we have a new attorney general.
We do. Who was part of the Bill Barr, who was part of all of the pardons with the Iran-Contra when Bush was leaving office.
Yeah.
And
he literally had one foot out the door.
Yeah.
On Christmas Eve.
Yeah, Christmas Eve.
Bill
Merry
Barr,
Christmas.
Right, issues all of these pardons. So it shouldn't be a surprise.
It wouldn't be out of the realm,
right,
that as a little tip of your hat to Manafort for being, what's that word? Loyal to the president.
Good soldier. That
he will face a pardon. So he doesn't care about misleading prosecutors because he's like, it's okay.
Well, it also make you think, what is he to mislead prosecutors and face decades in prison?
He's taking one for the team.
His
own personal stuff. That's
a big deal.
I don't know if I love someone that much.
You love me that much, Denise.
I don't know if I'd go to jail for you.
Wow.
It's true. Would you go to jail for me?
I just made you croissants this morning.
You did, but that's not jail.
And made you coffee from whole beans.
You did. Those whole bean coffee grounds are good. But you wouldn't go to jail for me either. Not when, the rest of your life. You're 69 years old. Anyway, let's move on.
Really, Denise?
Yeah. Go on.
So Pennsylvania is pushing a bill that bans cashless stores.
Yeah.
And this was, the city council voted last week to require the businesses accept cash as payments because there's a lot of stores coming in that don't want to exchange cash at all.
Right.
But this is a big problem.
It's a huge problem.
Because not everyone has.
It's a socioeconomic problem.
So stupid.
It's so ridiculous. I thought we were making progress on things.
Listen, this goes to my argument that the people in government aren't representing the people who really need them.
No.
I mean, if anybody, the people should be fighting for this bill because not everyone has the means to have a bank account and then to have a debit card.
Right. I mean,
it's exclusion. It's exclusion.
As it was evident during the shutdown, people are living paycheck to paycheck.
So 2 quotes here. So Councilman Bill Bill Greenlee introduced this bill, and he says there's a reasonable segment of people who won't be able to patronize those stores because they don't have because they don't have a credit or debit card.
Yep.
So the mayor, who's now reviewing the bill and considering it, says we share the concerns of council members about the significant number of Philadelphia residents who are unbanked or underbanked. That said, we remain concerned about how this measure impacts innovation in our retail sector.
Ooh, innovation, Laurie.
You can't just throw that word around to make it better.
No.
We constantly seek to strike the balance of growing our economy while ensuring our growth is inclusive. We've spoken to council members about a number of various options, and we anticipate further discussion before the mayor needs to act on the legislation.
I don't know.
I just think it should be a hard no.
I think it should be a hard no, too. I don't understand what everybody is talking about.
So there's a few states that are banning this practice.
Yeah.
Store bans, the cashless store bans are in New Jersey. That passed in January. And it's waiting on the governor's signature. And similar bills were introduced in New York and Washington, D.C. Interesting fact, though.
I like a fun fact.
Massachusetts has banned cashless merchants since 1978. But
so ambiguous.
This is very nuanced.
Yeah, very nuanced.
Because there are, as you have found...
I have. Well, not just me personally.
Yeah.
Friends.
There are cashless places in Massachusetts.
Yeah, which is very disturbing because a couple of my friends went to a brewery just recently in Waltham called the Mighty Squirrel, and they wanted to pay in cash. And the person was like, no. Not even a tip. They couldn't even leave a cash tip. No, they had to do it. That's weird. They had to do it all on the card.
It's not right.
It's not right.
And the thing is that the law is a little ambiguous because it's defined right now as a service or personal property, which leaves a lot up to interpretation for restaurants in particular.
Yeah.
So maybe we should get on that.
Maybe. It's just another way to separate. It's classism.
Yeah.
More and more.
I want a freaking cup of coffee.
Here's $5 that I have in my pocket.
$5 What happened to Cash is King?
I don't know.
It should be Cash is Queen.
Well, it should, yeah.
Let's be honest.
I mean, God. Money launderers are going to go out of business? What's going to happen?
What is going to happen?
The mob is going to be...
We're going to have no more good movies.
No more good... Look at what you're doing, people.
So, a little bit about Amy. Amy is the co-chair of the Worcester County Commission on the Status of Women. She is a Worcester-based social worker, a social justice educator, a consultant, and there's still more. She's a researcher and trainer with expertise in mental health, addiction treatment, early childhood trauma, community health, and youth development. We met Amy via email over the springtime because Amy wrote a scathing rebuke to a op-ed that was posted by Joe Battenfeld in the Herald titled "State Lawmakers Push Campaign Childcare Funding."
Yeah.
The backstory was that women were looking for childcare coverage for.
We were looking at a lot of the regulations around what you can spend your campaign money on and what you can't. And there was so much sexism built into that. It was just ridiculous. It was clearly made for men, fashioned around men. You could rent tuxedos, that kind of stuff was covered. But childcare wasn't because, of course, they were thinking about men. Why are we going to pay? Don't they have stay-at-home wives?
The childcare thing has taken a while to actually gain traction too, right?
Yeah.
There have been a lot of discussions about it with very little movement.
It's yet again one of those places where men feel like women are catching up a little. They got to push right back, right? It's so surprising. I was actually really surprised, even that Joe wrote that art, right? Coming.
Yeah, it was very surprising.
What about, right? It seems so non-controversial to me that, of course, you should get to write off as campaign expenses having your kids walk.
You're on the Worcester County Commission on the Status of Women.
Yep.
Right? And so you are a co-chair there, so you probably do a lot of work in the child care space. But, if you want to tell us a little bit about what that looks like now.
Okay.
And what your priorities are.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I work with this absolute hero of mine, Lori Ross. She's a professor at Clark University, and we've known each other for a while. one of her kind of goals was to professionalize youth work. So I met her through that, like doing trainings for youth workers, because, she comes to this place feeling like the people interacting with our kids are so incredibly important, and we don't value them, we don't care about them, we don't support them, and it really tells our kids that we don't care about them,
right.
we don't support them, right? So, that's kind of been the space she's been in. Her background is in community development. She was also hired to look at the drivers of youth violence in Worcester. And to do that, she worked with the police. As a researcher at Clark, she had access to police data as well. And we could see that the people that the police identified as being the highest risk, when we looked back, they had police in their homes before they could walk or talk.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Right?
Wow.
And social workers, I think, understand this, but I don't think the average person realizes, this starts in infancy, right? This path that people are on. And we were talking about that a minute or two before, about how we can predict who's going to jail based on things at the very beginning of their life. And so, that was Lori's pitch, was like, if we know that, can we help them in early childhood? Right? That's what we got to do. If we really want to get crime to go down and prevent violence, we got to start really young. So we both really kind of ended up backing up and looking at that early childhood space. And of course, the things you find are, you guys know probably as women, but it looks pretty yucky out there in early childhood.
It does. Yeah. And so I have a 9-year-old, and one of the challenges I had when she was 3 months old and was desperately looking for childcare was that I worked off hours. So I was working 10 to 7, and I could not find a daycare center that was open or would even consider talking to me. I got so desperate where I put an ad on Craigslist to find someone to watch my 2.5-year-old baby. The fact that there was nothing out there, and to add on top of that, I was paying $100 a day, which was a ton of money.
Right.
But the person who was watching my kid was making $10 an hour.
Wow.
So, there's no...
Yeah.
And don't they, some places charge you, if you're not there by a certain time, they
every
charge
place
you.
does.
They shake
Every
you down
place
for
does.
more.
They're get here at 6. The amount of white knuckle driving I've done from 5 to 6 p.m.
Oh, I
don't
bet.
really want to. Yeah, but
Right?
I think it's hard to consider all those things, because when you're... Well, what I'm saying is, when you're in it and you're desperate and you're just looking for
You're
a
just
place,
trying to do it.
and because you can't stay out of work,
Right.
or you don't want to,
Right.
and there's been a lot of things that have shown that women who stay out of work are at an automatic disadvantage.
Huge.
Because they're out of the workforce for maybe 5-6 years. Then there's the learning curve, and then there's getting back in, and then pay inequality becomes an interesting conversation. So,
Yeah,
that's how do you even start
big
looking
thing.
at addressing these problems?
I think that is what we are kind of trying to do. So kind of Lori's efforts to look at where do we start did put us in early childhood. And so I'm working for this project called Worcester Addresses Childhood Trauma. And where, that space is where disparity really gets seated, I think, right? We know that women are hugely economically disadvantaged when we look at them compared to men.
Right.
And when men are making all of our policies, that's the problem. That's why I'm so excited about what you guys are doing. It is and women haven't had access to that space, yet we are absolutely impacted by decisions made in that space.
Yep,
right.
And men aren't even listening. We kind of, I think women for a long time, the Trump administration has been a wake-up call for women, because I think that women, especially older women, have really relied on the fact that men have our backs, they're going to take care of us. That's what the paternalism is all about, right? This trust and belief that the people in power will consider your needs. Right. We have seen that is absolutely not the case. No. That is not true. That is not true for women. No. That is not true for people of color.
Right.
That is not true if you're gay or lesbian. The people making the decisions are making decisions for themselves.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's like why we're in the state we're in.
Right. It's true. Well, and then we see more women coming in. The things
Yeah.
like the childcare. So we were looking at some of the bills that have been filed recently about childcare, and they're all filed by women.
Of course.
And so female candidate Elizabeth Warren announced over the weekend, she's one of the few candidates, also obviously a woman, was like, we need to look at childcare. And I mean, we are leading these discussions,
Right.
and the only way we're going to lead them is if we get, more women elected, right?
Yes.
And to be fair, too, I mean, childcare costs just don't affect women specifically,
Good
right?
point, Denise.
I mean,
Yes.
when they're in a two-person home where there's a male and a female provider, then, it takes a toll on
Yep.
the whole household income, but
Right.
it's especially difficult
Right.
when you're a single mom. And you have to make these decisions. Like Laurie, I remember when you were running, you were like, there was a point, and you had a two-person income home. You had to make a decision about whether or not to do I pay my electric bill or do I send Kira to daycare?
Right.
Like, it's one of those things that you needed
Yeah.
to make decisions, and those decisions are happening more and more frequently now.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think changes are going to be, not as quick as we want them to be, but it's a start, right?
Right. Even the status of women is fairly new. It's only been in I think 6 years maybe. But women really pushed for that. They were like, there's no push for men to go out there and find out what's going on for women.
Right.
If women aren't banging on, right? Like, even though that's their job is to understand their constituents' concerns and address them, I think they, like all of us, we end up talking to people that are like us.
Yeah.
Right. Nixon basically lampooned a child care initiative back in the 70s. And I've read in a few articles that it was passed and Nixon vetoed it, but if that had gone through, we would have been in a completely different space when it comes to child care.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, but
Wow.
but that's what it takes too. It takes long
And
range
it's timing,
thinking.
and it's timing too.
Yeah.
Like, our lawmakers then had the foresight, but yet we had
Right.
one person to veto
Yeah.
it. And
Well,
it all
and
goes to crap.
this is an issue that we did campaign on while running for state rep, and the question was always, well, it's hard because, how can you make childcare affordable, but then make sure the people who are watching your children are paid adequately? Like they're completely, they're polar opposites. But just because it's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't try and you shouldn't do it.
And it's on all of us to do it.
Right. Right.
Right? That's one of the things I think about. Coming from this research space, we now know how important early childhood is.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people, and myself included, at one point had this idea that you weren't going to remember any of the things that were happening to you in early childhood, so it didn't really matter. Like,
Right.
what difference did, it was a child was this passive thing that as long as you fed and watered it like a plant, it would grow up fine, and then, you deal with that, and nothing could be further from the truth, and that is another reason we really need to be shifting our policy to take care. Men were children too, right?
Right.
So people need to pay attention to that space. And it's, you're just talking about it costs this much to send my kid there and the person barely makes anything. We put no resources into that.
none.
Right? And that's why you can't make it work, because we don't care about it, and we don't care about it because we think it's a women's issue.
Right. So what are you doing now, Amy? What are you doing now to advance this? That you've done some of this research. What's your next steps?
So we're kind of trying, I think public education is a piece of it. We really do want people to realize that early childhood is incredibly important. There's a role for all of us to play. It really matters in early childhood when people are getting support and nurturing. One of the things that we know is that to really support kids, we gotta really support their caretakers.
Yep.
Right? That's 100% change. I've been, in this kind of DCF space now, and you hear story after story about somebody who was a DCF child and now they're the second gen, now they have kids under DCF custody. the cycle, right? Like once we marginalize people, we give them access to less and less resources, and it gets worse and worse. And like we can't handle the volume out there on the margins at all.
And DCF is held to a higher level too because they're dealing with kids. And I'm not excusing them, but I mean, Massachusetts really needs to invest in that program.
Oh my gosh, right? Just when you hear,
we need?
Right, when you hear about the just sheer caseloads, it's like they just do not have the resources to meet the demands of the situation. And yeah, you can complain about them all you want, but the baseline is they are not resourced at all.
And then you get to the point where you're trying to prioritize all of the cases that are really not ideal either. So which case is worse that you have to prioritize over another really bad case, right? And that's a really hard decision for humans to have to deal with and pick and choose what child to deal with and what child not to deal with.
And so the turnover is insane, right? Because you get in there and you're like, oh my God, I'm like holding people's lives in my hands, and if I make the wrong decision, like it affects their life trajectory, and people don't stay in those jobs. It's just... it's better than the pay in early childhood care centers, but it's not awesome either. And what we're asking them to do. There is a truth to, we don't want to promote women because they're just going to stop and take care of their kids and go on maternity. Yeah, they are. Too bad men aren't too. We'd be in a real different place if they, like, that to me is one of the biggest things that holds women back. We care, I shouldn't say holds us back, but we care about kids, right?
That's why men, I feel, need to start stepping up too and asking for things for them too. They started with the changing tables in men's rooms and things like that, but now they need to get a little bit more vocal for themselves. In the workplace and be like, no, I need to be there. This is my child too, and I want to be part of this whole thing.
And we're gonna spend the money on the other. You hear people complain about food stamps and incarceration rates and all this. Why don't we spend that money in early childhood, and why should it be like society should be taking that burden? So there's countries and cultures that give a year to, like, you get public support for a year, and like I can't imagine that is not worth every penny. If those kids are being home, taken care of, safe, like nothing bad is happening to them. Amazing.
Well, I feel like what needs to happen too is that correlation you just made needs to be communicated by our legislators and by people who are making decisions, because to have someone connect incarceration rates or DCF connections with childcare seems abstract to so many people, but I mean, it is up to our decision makers to really invest in learning about this and finding ways to communicate about the constituents.
And it's childcare throughout the child's life too. I mean, as they get older, there's other things that you can't bring to a daycare anymore, right? So it's after school. It's all these things that you have to set up because just because the kid's on vacation doesn't mean you're on vacation, And that's another thing. You have to. All these parents are taking like February vacation off to be with their kids. So now if you have a company full of parents who are taking the same time off, like, you just need to be flexible and creative in some of these ideas to make it work.
So people listening now, what can we all do to start advancing initiatives around whether it be making childcare affordable, accessible, or just moving the needle in any way, shape, or form? Because it does seem so overwhelming and daunting, and it will take small incremental steps to actually affect change, especially in this space. So what are some of the things that people can do?
I think the things you just said, right? Like, it is, as a social worker, our role is usually to connect the individual experience to like the policy level stuff, right? So the individual level experience is looking abysmal. Believe us, right? Like, it's really hard out there for people that are barely getting by and have children. And so that needs to take policy change, right? Every time we want to give some sort of support to women and children, people scream and cry.
They start freaking out.
They start freaking out, and they just We got to use our voices for people that are barely getting by. I do always feel like we're so lucky in Massachusetts because my experience with our legislators in general have been nothing but positive. I feel like people listen when you tell them this and they get it because they see it all around them. It makes perfect sense. But it has been that I don't think they hear from the right people, right? And when they have, now that we've had these women's commissions, our legislative breakfasts are really well attended, and our legislative advocacy day, and people aren't really saying, no, we don't care about babies.
So what's stopping them from creating these policies then? Is it the culture in our state house that is stopping them from doing it? Because if they're empathetic and sympathetic when they're at these lunches and be like, Amy, I hear you. I see it with my constituencies. But yet they don't take that step.
I think it all comes down to money, honestly,
really?
Right? Early childhood does not have lobbyists out there talking to politicians. Who's going to profit?
Yeah.
If we could figure out somebody who was going to profit, it would change.
Can you give us the Women's Commission website and maybe some more information that people can read about the commission?
Or
find other
great.
ways to get involved?
Yes.
The state of Massachusetts has a commission, Women's Commission landing page, so you can see the state level there. There are commissions in every part of the state. They're usually regional. Worcester County, I think we have a website that's linked from there. We also have a Facebook page, so you can find us on Facebook. So it definitely, if there are women out there listening that really feel like they want to come speak their mind, we do hold kind of listening sessions, and those get posted a lot because it is important to us to hear what's going on out there for women in the Commonwealth and to feed that back to our policymakers.
Right. So can people call their legislators and say, get this childcare?
That would be great.
Thing? So what if we encourage people to do that right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
and we can put that in the show
notes.
notes.
Whether there's legislation or not, anytime you call your legislator, they really do pay attention to that. I know they always say that, but it is the truth, right? Mm-hmm. Legislators do pay attention to when individuals in their district tell them, I care about this.
And keep calling them, just like the doctor that doesn't call you back. Keep on calling until they call you back.
Amy, you're an incredible human being.
You are. Keep up the good work, Amy.
I know.
Seriously.
This is incredible.
Thanks,
and the donuts out here are great, so we're
That's
totally
right.
coming back.
Hi, Laurie.
Hi, Denise.
Hope you guys enjoyed that little interview with Amy. And
we're hoping to have her more on the show too because I think she'll be a great voice.
Yes.
So
I like her.
Yeah, me too.
So it's that time of the show, Laurie, where we do our political pill. Dun dun dun. Your dose of political therapy.
Yes.
So Google, hey Google, what you doing, Google? What are you doing? Because I haven't heard a peep from you.
Right.
So basically, Google, well, there's an app. Let's just say there's an app.
What is it called?
It's called Pray the Gay Away. Pray the Gay Away app. Please do not download it. This is not a plug for them in any way, shape, or form. Is still active through Google. Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft have all taken that app down because there have been calls for them from the public to say, look this is not really beneficial. It's debunked. Conversion therapy is debunked by the American Psychiatric Association, and you should remove the app. Apple listened, took it down.
Thanks, Apple.
Amazon, it was up for a week in Amazon, and they got feedback saying, what the hell are you freaking doing?
Yeah.
And they took it down. Microsoft took it down. Google, and this was in December of 2018, so that's not too long ago.
No.
It's not like we're talking about years and years.
Right.
Google has remained silent, has not even made a statement as of airing right now. Has not made a statement. So, Brian Sims, talk about Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's getting a lot of play this episode. He is a rep from Pennsylvania. He did a Facebook Live segment on this. You can find it on our website too. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about urging Google to remove the app. And he was really good. He said, there's no such thing as conversion therapy because it has been discredited is not as a legitimate practice. So he calls it conversion abuse.
That's such a great way to talk about it.
I love that. So he's partnering with this group called Truth Wins Out. And they have a petition right now. So Truth Wins Out was established in 2006. And it's an organization that fights religious extremism and specifically around conversion abuse and how it affects the LGBTQ youth. I signed it. It's a great petition. It's basically going to be sent to Google to say, look, get your shit together and be with the times, because there are states now trying to ban conversion therapy. Massachusetts being one of them. Pennsylvania is now doing it. Colorado. Everyone's getting on board because this needs to get squashed and eliminated.
Right.
So,
and don't let your rep tell you they aren't focusing on it too much, because it doesn't really happen.
Right, because it does happen. You know why? You know how I know that it happens, Laurie?
How?
So there's Living Hope Ministries. Again, this is not a plug for them. This is, no. Anyway, they are the people behind the app. And what it is a bunch of podcasts, related materials on how to kind of pray the gay way and try to convince your child that they are not who they feel that they are. Anyway, there are 4 churches, well, actually 6 because I miscounted. There are 6 associated churches here in Massachusetts alone that subscribe to this Living Hope Ministries mission.
So,
yes, Laurie?
I mean, Denise, so we get terrible news like this and all of this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
What?
Sign the petition.
What can we do?
There's a petition that we will link. Well, it will be linked with Brian Sims' Facebook. I think that's how we'll do it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But the link to the petition will be out there. I already signed it. I think everyone should sign it and pressure Google to get rid of this app.
Right.
And read up on Truth Wins Out.
Yeah.
They're doing a great battle right now for the LGBTQ youth in our communities. All that will be on the website too.
Yeah, we'll include it.
We'll include that.
Lots of show notes today.
Show notes.
So, Denise.
I think that's it, Laurie.
This is it. Great news again.
Great news.
We're going weekly, beginning in March.
Yes.
So you'll hear more of these wonderful voices.
I know, I can't wait.
I know you can't wait to see me more.
Oh, yeah. Dreams are coming true.
Yes.
It was my Valentine's Day wish.
That's true.
So stupid.
And don't forget, if you could review us on iTunes.
Subscribe to us.
To our podcast. We love feedback.
We do.
Especially when it tells us how amazing we are.
Yeah, that's preferred.
But,
That's that.
We like constructive criticism too.
We're going to edit that out. All right, bye.
Bye.